My lords, ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome to part 4 of our East Coast Conquest playthrough on Railway Empire 2. In part number 3 we focused on expanding the city of Albany, and that was with a view to achieving this goal here, to construct a university in Albany. To be able to do that, we need to have a population of 90,000. We're currently up to 86,000, and if we look at the supply and demand overview, we are hitting 100% on most commodities. The only ones we're failing to hit 100 are the furniture, dairy products and liquor. As we discussed in that episode, dairy products are something we will be able to handle ourselves in a few moments. As soon as Albany ticks to 90,000, we can put a third industry building in Albany, and we will be going for the dairy products. And if you remember, with a view to almost future-proofing that expansion, we have purchased Archer Ranch, which supplies the milk that will be used by that incoming dairy factory. So we should see nice profits being generated on this line here, and we may even want to consider adding a second locomotive onto this service, depending on how much the demand increases once that factory has been constructed, which should just be around the corner. Other than that, things are going pretty well across the network. We are getting breakdowns here and there, but nothing too dramatic. Boston is growing, as is Syracuse, and we've also connected into Canada. The cities of Toronto and Ottawa are now on our network as well, and they are being supplied with some of the more base commodities, just to make us a little bit of money. We're not really looking to expand them to any great amount. In terms of research, we can now unlock the oil atomizer. This reduces the locomotive maintenance time by 5%, so that's a nice one to get. It'll speed up that maintenance process, which is always going to be a good thing. So Albany, we're very close now to that 90,000 mark, and I think at this point we'll just go to 3 times game speed in order to tick over to 90,000, at which point we shall build the university and of course that dairy product factory that we were just discussing a few moments ago. I think what we'll do while we're waiting for that is get another maintenance post on this line here. We have another breakdown, and this is quite a critical stretch of track down here, so having a maintenance post round about there just to keep things flowing as freely as possible is probably not a bad idea. And there we go, we now have that third industry slot available, so we will go for the dairy products manufacturing, and we'll pop that just down there somewhere. So we'll make money off the milk that we've purchased, the delivery of the milk, and of course the cheese production. That cheese will be consumed in both Boston and New York City, as well as Albany itself, so that should be a good money maker for us. At this point we can also remove the library, demolish that, and now we can build that university to meet that final goal that we currently have. And we'll situate the university just there, I think. There we go, that's that now ticked off. In August the 19th of 1831, we had until December 1835 to achieve that, so well ahead of schedule. And we have new tasks, and we actually have 7 tasks this time around, so let's have a look, shall we? I think we'll just let this play out so we're not talking over one another. Okay, so we need to now start expanding southwards onto the eastern seaboard. So the first task, chronologically, is to achieve an express status rail line between Boston and Philadelphia, so we're going to have to purchase access to this region in order to achieve that, so we'll do that straight away. We have to deliver 8 loads of salt into New York City, and as it says here, there is no demand for salt in New York until its population reaches 70,000. So we may have to do some growth in New York City. we have to reach a total of 75,000 citizens in the Mid-Atlantic States region. The cities in that region are Pittsburgh, Philadelphia and Washington DC. So we'll have to grow some of these cities, although it's not too far away as it stands at 62,000. We have to buy 3% of stocks in Barty Shiloh's company. That should be fairly straightforward to do. And then optional tasks, completely buy out Barty's company. Again, that shouldn't be too difficult. Grow the cities in the Virginia region to a total of 120,000. And as we can see, the cities there are Big Lick, Charlottesville and Norfolk. So between the three of them we need a combined total of 120,000, and we're just over halfway there, as we can see right here. And then finally have 3 cities with 120,000 or more citizens on our network. Okay, so I guess because we've now got the optional tasks available, this is the final stretch for this scenario. So I think the first thing we'll do, just to get it out of the way, is head over to the competitor screen and we will buy those 3% shares just to tick off that first task. That'll cost us just over $250,000, but we can afford it.
Citizens are highly satisfied with your performance.
So that's that task taken care of without too many hardships. I think what we'll do is we'll look to grow New York City next, and then look to get that express line from up here in Boston down into Philadelphia. The track lane may be a bit convoluted here because of course we are competing against Barty in this area, so we're going to have to be a bit clever with our tracks. There'll have to be bridges, tunnels, that sort of thing in order to navigate this area. But for now, let's turn our focus to New York City. They're already up at 67,000 as we can see. We can give them a library that'll further boost the growth in this city by increasing the demand fulfillment by that 10%. And what was it? It said for salt, 70,000 citizens. So I think that library alone will get us over that 70,000 threshold. So what we will do is, where do we want to bring in the salt from? We have a salt mine all the way over here, but that seems a little bit too far away from my money. Is there anything a little bit close that we could use? There is one all the way up here to the north of Bangor, and if we look a bit further south, is there anything down here? Doesn't look like it, so I think we may have to come from this one over here, Stewart Pit, and we'd have to snake a line all the way down here and into New York. Now it's only one load of salt, or sorry, one full load of salt that we need to bring in, 8 units. So it should be fairly easy to do. It's just going to be a bit convoluted when it comes to actually getting that connection from the pit into New York City. For now, I think a good start will be to connect Johnson Station into New York City. They produce textiles and dresses, so that wool will be in high demand, and of course the lumber is always needed in a city as well. So let's make a start on that, and we'll restart the game progression. We'll unpause it and we'll have this line run down this way, cross over the river here, maybe just kink upwards a little bit, and then connect into this outside track, outside platform right here. So 481,000. The vast majority of that is of course being spent on the bridge, which we can't avoid. We have to get over the river. So what we'll do is just increase the game speed, and we'll let that money accumulate, build the track. We'll parallel track up into New York City and then get some trains running down here and get some of this wool and wood being brought in. Okay, so we can build the first stretch of the track. Let's straight away double track it, as we said, because we'll probably have at least 2 services running down here, because the wool is going to be in high demand, as we discussed a few moments ago. Get our track direction signals placed and a supply tower perhaps just after the bridge. Let's just slow it down, and now we can build that new line. So we're coming from Johnson Station to New York City. We want to make sure we have a full load when we leave Johnson Station. This is wood and wool into New York City. There we go. 2 locomotives, as I mentioned, and they will be freight trains. So let's confirm that for 37,000. Take a look at the research screen for a moment. We can't unlock anything yet. We need either 200 points for the mineral oil. That will reduce the maintenance requirements by 5%. Or we need 300 for creative accounting, which increases the amount of bonds you can issue by 10%. I think we'll go for the mineral oil. While we do have an existing bond open at the moment, it's not something that we've been massively reliant on as of late, and our company is doing pretty well financially, that we should be able to get away with issuing no further bonds once we've repaid the current one that we have open. Okay, so the next thing we want to work on then is this express line we need to get into Boston from Philadelphia. So what we'll do is, of course, build a station out in Philadelphia, and we'll pop that just there. Okay, nice little threat right there from Barty. So I think what we'll do first of all is we may as well get a connection to New York City itself. And what platform do we have? Well, that's handy. We'll come into that platform there. Okay, you're just complaining about that, are you? Okay. Well, we're going to have to do something like that. We're going to need to, of course, bridge over his tracks. We don't need a bridge there. That's unnecessary. Let's just bring that down. And that's converted that to a tunnel. And we can probably reduce that by doing... Oh, that's now a 9% gradient. Well, maybe if we go down... pull that back a bit, just trying to get that gradient there as low as we can. That's 3%, 3%, 3%, 0 and 1. I think that's a decent enough line. It's very expensive to build, and what we're going to do is we're going to have, in fact, yeah, we'll do no, yes, no, go into that platform, and then platform number 1 here will then follow this line. We'll pass through the station at New York on these 2 platforms here, which are available at both sides, and then of course we run a line up into Boston, keeping it separate from everything else so we can do everything possible to ensure we get that express status. So again, it's just a case of waiting around while the money builds up. As we can see, it's an expensive line. We've got the full steam ahead achievement. I'm not sure what that is for, but it's nice to see we've got an achievement regardless. Okay, so as we've just picked up on there, we're getting sabotaged by Barty now, which is part and parcel of the game and something we're just going to have to swallow, unfortunately. But of course we do have a long-term goal to actually buy out his company. Anyway, enough about that. We can afford to build the first stretch of track between Philly and New York at this point, so we'll do exactly that, and then we'll parallel track it. This should be considerably cheaper than the initial construction costs we just had to pay. There we go, far cheaper, coming in at under 200,000. We can get the signals and supply towers up in a few moments, and then we can get some services running between these 2 cities, and hopefully that will be a nice little profitable route for us. So let's do our signal directions, and there we go. Railway buildings, supply towers, I'll say we'll have 2, and we'll go for 1 towards either end of the run like that. Now we can set up that line, so we'll come from New York into Philadelphia. Locomotive has got to be the John Bull, and we'll have 2 trains. They will be automatic, so they'll take a mixture of freight and passengers, and we'll confirm that for 37,000. The next thing we want to do is look to have this express line constructed. So again, we'll just come parallel with our existing line, which will save us quite a bit of money. It will also allow us to share the supply towers, of course. So 195,000 for the first stretch into New York. I guess it's going to be quite similar for the return stretch, 196. So again, that shouldn't take too long to accumulate that, especially on 3 times game speed. And what we'll do at this point as well is this line here will just specify that they don't decide to start using another platform by going into the edit rail line option, go to Philadelphia and specify platform number 2, and then up in New York we want to specify platform number 3. That'll just prevent any switching over further down the line. Okay, so now what we want to do is continue this line out from New York and head towards the city of Boston. Now we want this to be as straight and as flat as possible to give us every possible opportunity to achieve that express rating that we're desperate for this line. And let's see here what's going to be the best way to come in. Well, that would be very direct, but it would also be very expensive. But it does mean we're not going to interfere with our existing tracks. And for the platform, I think we'll go for the outer one, and then maybe just have a little play about with this, see if we can make it a little bit more bearable. Although that's not too bad in terms of all its gradient changes. So maybe we just bite the bullet and go for the expensive build just to give us every opportunity to get an express train running between these two fairly distant cities. Of course, if we were, I suppose we could cross over, connecting to here, come over all the way and then branch off immediately. Yeah, maybe we'll do that actually. Let's remove that track node and that track node there. And that one. And then have this, I don't mind that bridge there just to keep the gradient as level as we possibly can. And then can we come parallel there? And now we want to minimize the interaction as much as possible here. Whoops. So if we do something like that. Okay, yeah, we'll take that, double track it back to New York City. So we have that long bridge there, but again, I think that's a worthwhile investment just to avoid dropping into this depression here, then having to climb back out. We're connected in there. As we come parallel around about here, we want to make our way over to the outermost tracks ASAP, before then maybe going off from this line here and bringing it straight into one of these empty platforms such as that one right there. How does that look? That looks pretty good. And then of course complete the track by bringing it in like this. Just pull that back. 41,000, not a lot of money at all. And now we can go into our track direction, set it up correctly, like that, and finally like that, and then I do believe we are ready to go, but we will need some supply towers of course. Now we have one there and one there which are shared. Let's have another one somewhere around here just before this bridge perhaps, as soon as we've got the money for it of course. There we go. And perhaps one final one just on approach into Boston as well. Just slow the game down once again. Orchard near Montreal, not interested in that. So a new rail line then. Let's start in Boston, head to Philadelphia. You're on the only viable and valid line, so that's fine. And you're coming straight through. Jumble, we'll have 2. Express only, so that's only passengers and mail, and this can be the Boston Philly Express. Confirm that, and hopefully that will be enough to satisfy this task right here. Has New York grown to such an extent where it now needs salt? Let us have a look. Yes, it has. So we need to start a way, or find a way, to bring some salt in. Now, as we discussed, we do have salt available right here. Oh, that's what we need to do. We need to make sure we put a maintenance building in Philadelphia, of course. So let's just do that. There we go. I think we already have one in New York. No, we don't. So let's make sure we do one here as well. There we go. Okay, so how do we want to work this salt? Well, first of all, let's get the mineral oil technology. And let's have a think about this. So I think what we'll do is, where are you running to at the moment with the salt? You're running to Albany, aren't you? So if you can come in, let's see, perhaps we'll have it come, do any of these lines head to New York? Buffalo, Buffalo, and Albany and Boston. Right then. I think what we'll do is we'll come this way, through here, and well, we only need one load, so it doesn't, and we don't need New York to grow because it's not one of those there or those down here. So I think we'll just do it as long-winded and cheaply as we can. So we'll give it a separate platform, allow a little bit of a runoff here, connect it into our existing network like so. Just get that to be a valid connection. Make sure you remain on platform 1 at Stewart Terminal. There we go. And so you can now get as far as Albany, we know that. Can you get from Albany to New York from your platform? I'm guessing you can't. You're coming in on this platform here. So if we then, it was this one here, wasn't it? Yes. If we then take this like so. Now we can't connect that into there. Can we connect it into that bit there? No. Well, let's do that then. And have it come in like that. Do our track directions. And the same down here. Where are we? Just down here. We shouldn't need any extra supply towers. There should be plenty of those already. And now we should hopefully be able to go from Stewart Terminal, platform, oh, we'll select the platform in a moment, into New York. Yep, that's exactly what I imagined you would do. Now we can select the platform, platform 2. Did we tell them to wait for a full load? Yes, we did. And just have the one train. Just so we can get that task completed right there. So that one's not done yet, but hopefully it will do pretty soon. What do you want to focus on next? Well, really we want to be aiming at some of these just so we get these optional tasks completed before these are ticked off. Because, yeah, we're quite close to that one as we can see. So I think we need to turn our attention down here. So in that case, how much would it cost to buy access to this area? I'm not interested in that one. That was one where you can get extra bonds, wasn't it? Yes. 850,000. Let's go ahead and buy that. And we want to get these cities growing. So what we'll do is we'll run a line into Washington and then extend down into Charlottesville, Big Lick and Norfolk. And then we can start growing these cities. How's Albany is still experiencing rapid growth, 112,000 now. Boston is still growing as well. Oh, and you also have an extra industry slot. What would we like you to produce? Well, I'd say we might go for clothing, because we're probably getting in the cloth from either Albany or New York City. So taking advantage of that is probably not a bad idea. So no, we can't afford it. 551,000, so maybe we'll just allow them. But then again, we don't want to put something silly down, because we want to make sure we're keeping the demand satisfaction, the supply demand, as high as possible. Beautiful, that's the express train confirmed.
Now that's what I call a real breakdown.
So, fashion industry. Won't take us just a few moments to afford that. There we go. That way we guarantee we're bringing in one of the commodities that they're now going to require. So that'll keep this growth growing. We're going to need a university here, because you can't exceed 100,000 without one. So we're going to have to sacrifice a library. Luckily that'll still keep us in growth. If we take the 10% off of that, that'll get us to 67.9%. So still enough to see the expansion that we need. So let's demolish the library. And how much for a university? 190,000, brilliant, we can afford that. Let's just rotate that around so it's pointing the right direction and pop it just there. So hopefully Boston will continue growing, but we will keep an eye on that. Albany is obviously continuing to grow. New York. If we remove the library here, we would drop below the growth threshold. So maybe we won't go for New York for the third city. Instead, we'll get one of these down here to grow. So anyway, enough about that. What we'll do for now is, like I said, we'll get a line from Philadelphia down to Washington, DC. And that'll just open up the southern portion of the map for us. And let's connect you into that platform. Let's just double track it as well, and we'll go on this side here. 81,000, we can't build that. Now we've got a little bit of red right there. Can we do it on the inside instead then? Let's see. Let's bring you to that side and you to that side. No. Okay, then what we'll do instead is remove that and remove that. Parallel track it as far as that bridge. Have the bridge be single tracked. And then parallel track the rest of the way into Washington, DC. There we go. Get the direction signals put down. The supply towers as well. We'll go one there. And we'll go one here. And then set up a simple system from Philadelphia to Washington with just 2 trains, automatic loading, like so. So that's now given us a headway into these 3 cities down here from Washington. How are we doing down here? None of them are very big, so we want to be growing all 3 of them. And what commodities do we have? We have meat, we have textiles, and we have meat yet again. So we don't have any beer producing cities down here. But saying that, we also don't have access to any grain down here. We have some up by Pittsburgh, but that is a fair old distance away. Right then, so I think we'll just have yeah, these might be a bit tricky to grow just because of what industries are in the area. But regardless, it's something we need to do. Let's just slow the game down again. The next thing we're going to unlock is the Dunham. So we need 300 points for that, so we may as well just forget about our research for a while and instead focus on expanding ever southwards. Another thing we need to make sure we remember to do is, of course, give these stations a maintenance depot. So that's one in Washington DC, and here is now one in Charlottesville. So let's get a nice connection between these 2 cities. Thankfully he's got a nice bridge there, so we can just go straight underneath that bridge to save some money and not having to produce a bridge or tunnel ourselves, which is very, very fortunate. And let's get these linked together, and we can get some services running between these two cities for some background income. Supply tower, please. We'll have one there, and we'll go for one up there as well. New line, Washington to Charlottesville, with the John Bull, 2 trains, automatic loading, confirm. Okay, so that's them 2 cities connected, so we really have now opened up access to both Big Lick and Norfolk. Which one is the biggest city so far? It looks like it's Charlottesville, and it's also got the highest demand fulfillment as well, so we're going to throw a lot of attention into Charlottesville. So let's have a look what they need. So if we can get them grain, which we've discussed would be quite difficult because of the distances involved, but we can certainly get them some corn, because we do have a corn farm just over here. We would have to unlock West Virginia to do that, but that's not a problem. It's a very cheap concession to buy, so we'll go ahead and do that, and then we'll get ourselves a station at the corn farm. Again, just making sure we do put that maintenance depot in before we forget. And we'll run a line from here over into Charlottesville. So which way do we want to go? Can we pass through there? No, it won't even allow us to do, just to pass through that bit. So we're gonna have to go up here. And that's going to be costly because it's quite a steep gradient change. Bring you down. Yeah, that looks like is the best we're going to be able to get here. Maybe if we just pull that way, but we can remove that bridge just there. And then have you come back down this way. Oh, that's made a tunnel there, which we don't want. Let's remove that. Right, can we do anything about this bridge here? Probably not. So I think we're just going to have to grin and bear it on that front. So let's resume the game then. I mean, it's not too expensive. 446,000 isn't the end of the world. And it is worthwhile to get, hopefully get Charlottesville experiencing some of that growth that they need, or that we need. Let's just go a little bit faster. Can we repay that bond? I think we still have one. Yes, we do. 842,000. No, we could issue another bond to pay it off, but I think that would be a little bit silly, so I don't think we're going to do that. Instead, we're going to focus on investing the money in our network. So let's get this double tracked. $200,000. There we go. Track direction signals, of course. Like so. Supply tower, again, we'll go for 2. One over there and one back here. And then we can start a supply line from King Station. That is always fully loaded. With 2 trains, freight only, into Charlottesville. And let's just rename that to Corn to Charlottesville. Confirm. Okay, 200 research points, so yep, still nothing available at the moment. It is 300 that we need. We have a connection bonus up here into London. I suppose we could run a system or a train from London into Toronto just to get some passengers flowing and get that connection bonus, which will be very, very welcome. I'm not going to, in fact no, I will give them a maintenance depot, and let's just have that connecting nicely up there. Double track it down into here. What the heck, we'll do it that way and go for the gridiron. Get our direction signals on the way. Supply tower around about there should do. Make sure we put the maintenance depot on, which we can't afford, so let's just increase the game speed until we can. There we go. And now we can run a passenger line from London into Toronto. And we'll go for 2. There we go. And that'll get us a nice 300,000 which is most welcome indeed. So, are you being supplied with enough meat by our competitor? Yeah, you are. It is beer and grain that we're missing out on now. As we said, we do have grain up here by Pittsburgh, but getting a line through this terrain would be quite expensive. Although perhaps not, let's see. Let's go from there. There's a connection bonus which will help fund this track, hopefully. Oh, that is quite rough actually, isn't it? When you see the contour map. But it is something that I think will be worthwhile. So let's come this way. Down here. Probably avoid that bridge there, that's better. Snap parallel. Again, we'll make use of his bridge here by passing straight underneath. And then run parallel all the way in. And you may as well just share that platform there. 791,000, so that connection bonus has really come in handy because it's taking us a big way towards the costs that we need there. Let's bring a parallel track all the way back. And again, we'll go for the gridiron. 317,000 is not too bad. Far better than the initial outlay we had to pay, of course. There we go. Track direction signals, of course, like that. Railway buildings, we have a supply tower there. Let's give them another one there. And say there. So what was sabotaged? I guess it, yeah, that's fine. That's not a critical line for us, so I'm not too concerned by that. Let's go over to Scott Station, give them the maintenance depot, and then get a line from Scott Station with a full load. With the John Bull, 2 trains, freight only, heading to... Can you not get to Charlottesville? I thought you could. Ah, we haven't done the gridiron. I think that's the problem. Yes, exit that. Which task was that? I guess it was the 8 loads of salt. Yeah, that took quite a while to get down there, but never mind. Track construction, put the gridiron. There we go. Now we should be able to construct that line. So Scott Station once again, full load. Freight only, John Bull, 2 of them. Into Charlottesville. Perfect. Confirm. In fact, let's rename it first. So this is grain to Charlottesville. And confirm deployment. So away there you go. So that should help Charlottesville to grow. We could run a line from Pittsburgh to Charlottesville to get some beer brought in, because I imagine they have a good overland supply of grain from Scott Station, and we can just share this track here. I think a small breakdown there, that's not the end of the world, but Charlottesville is growing, which is precisely what we want to see. How are we doing on the rest of our tasks? Like I said, we want to make sure we get these done before we get this one done. We already have one city, which I guess will be Albany, in excess of 120,000. What's New York up to? 97. But as we said, they need a university before they go any higher. Boston is over 100,000 and still has pretty good fulfillment of demand. Albany 135, and again pretty good demand fulfillment as well. So Boston will be our next to tick over, and then potentially, well, I guess it will be New York City. What can we... Let's give you a furniture industry, because we have wood up here in Boston. We do have a line between these two. And the furniture will come in handy for both, well, for all 3, New York, Albany and Boston. So I think that's a worthwhile industry to put down right there. Well, we've been going for about 40 minutes or so, so I think we'll end this episode right here. Let's just pause the game. When we come back, I think the next thing we'll do is connect Pittsburgh into Charlottesville, and then we can get some of that beer being brought in, and obviously the meat that's being produced here will be sent back to Pittsburgh, so we'll have a bit of mutual growth right there. Once we've done that, of course, then we'll look to start growing either Big Lick or Norfolk. We need a total of 120,000 citizens in the Virginia region, so just growing 2 cities out of these 3 to 60,000 will be enough, and that should be pretty straightforward and achievable, especially if Charlottesville continues to grow as nice as it looks. Obviously the higher we can get this city, then the less we need to grow either Norfolk or Big Lick, and I am leaning towards Big Lick because it has a separate industry rather than meat, and again meat over here in Norfolk. So I'll save it here, then we'll hop on board a train for a cab ride, and I think we'll take the express service from Boston to Philadelphia today. So I'll pick it back up in just a couple of minutes once we're ready to go. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. We are just leaving the city of Boston on one of our express trains now, heading all the way down to Philadelphia. I hope you've enjoyed the episode and you are continuing to enjoy this new series. I must say I'm very much enjoying a bit of Railway Empire 2. It's similar enough but also different enough to Railway Empire 1 to make it feel very, very fresh indeed. And yeah, it's a game that I'm enjoying immensely so far. As always, a very special thank you to my Patreon supporters. Your support means the world and is absolutely fantastic. And yes, thank you very much indeed for that. As always, comments and suggestions more than welcome in the comment section down below or over on Discord. You can find a link to the Discord server and to my Patreon page in every video description. If you would like to check those out, then of course feel free. But for now, all that remains for me to say is, as always, ladies and gentlemen, take very good care of yourselves. It's ta-ta for now.